Hello everybody, this is Mr. Storm, and today we are going to continue working on our first-person character controller. As a bit of a review, let's talk about what we have so far. Well, we have our player object here in the middle of our scene. He has a camera attached to him, and we can see that player object here. Perfect. And we also have that let's open up the actual player here. It's easier to see. So he has a camera attached to him, attached to his head, and we have our scene, which our character is in. Let's go ahead and play, and we can see what we can do. So, oh, I moved too fast. So we can move around, we can walk around in the scene, we can jump, and we can fall off the edge. There's not really much we can do yet. What we're going to do in this part of the project is we're going to create the weapon system. Now, I'm going to teach you how to create one weapon, but it's going to be highly modifiable. And later on, if we get into some object-oriented programming, we'll be able to take this weapon system that we've built and create as many different weapons as we want for the game. But there are a couple things that we need before we really get started. We're going to save programming for kind of the last of this video. We're going to be building quite a few things. First, let's start with an enemy. Let's create a new enemy object. So I'm going to create a new scene here. And I want that to be a static body. So I don't want any of these. Let's choose static body. There we go. And I'm going to give it a mesh instance. Here we go, mesh instance. All right. And I'm going to set it to, let's say, a sphere. Let's make it a sphere enemy. And let's give it a collision shape as well. Collision shape. And we'll give that a sphere also. Perfect. Now, there's one other thing that we want to do to this enemy. I mean, we could modify this, add a color to it, whatever we want to do. It's just going to be a floating ball enemy. That we just need something to shoot at. But what's going to help our programming a whole lot later is if we start getting into the idea of adding objects to groups. Groups are incredibly versatile and incredibly important, and especially in our programming. And to add something to a group, all you have to do is come over to Node here, and notice we have signals and groups. Let's go to groups, and let's add a new group, enemies, and click add. And now notice that there's this little group icon next to the root node here, which means that this is now a part of the enemies group. Let's save this scene, and we're going to actually save it as an object, and we'll save it. Let's put a new folder in here. Enemies. And we're going to, oh, you know what? Let's actually rename it before we do all that. Enemy. There we go. Now save scene, put it in our enemies folder, call it just enemy. This will be a basic prototype of an enemy. All right. Now that that's saved, let's go back to our world scene, and let's actually add some enemies in. All we have to do is link them just like that. And let's bring him up and over. And let's add another one. All right. And let's slide him that way. We'll make this one a little bit higher. And let's grab, I don't know, one or two more. This one will be kind of like close, but like right on the floor right there. Okay, and let's make another one like really high up, just for fun. You see how easy it is to duplicate objects if we have them built as prefabricated objects, and we can just bring them right into the scene. All right, cool. Now let's play and see what that looks like. So now we have floaty boy number 1, floaty boy number 2, 3, and 4. So now we have some enemies in our scene that we can interact with. Perfect. Now, the other thing that we want to do is we don't want to have just a blank screen. First-person shooters usually have some indication of your ammo count. They have some indication of where you are going to be shooting when you are shooting. So let's go ahead and create that now so that we don't have to worry about it later. We're going to create a new node, and this is going to be called a control node. Control node. There we go. A control node essentially just creates a user interface. So let's rename this to UI. And let's set it to full rect so it fills the entire screen. Now, we went into 2D mode when we created a control because this is essentially what your screen is going to look like. That's what they're trying to show you here. So we're going to fill the whole screen. Let's add a label. Now, this is not going to be a super great looking ammo counter, but it'll be good enough for our purposes. So label, to allow us to add some text. Let's resize it just a bit, and let's set it to, let's say, the bottom right. Okay, and let's actually add some text here. We'll say, I don't know, ammo, just for now. So we know that's where our ammo count is going to be. That's going to change in our script, but we'll just do that here for now. And then we need to add, let's add a texture rect. Here we go. We're going to add a texture rectangle. We're going to set it to be the center of our screen. Let's make it really small. Okay. And the texture is just going to be, let's make it this icon. And change the material. Nope. Let's change, go to visibility and modulate. Let's make it completely black. There we go. So there we go. And if you have a crosshair that you'd rather use, that's fine too. Let's make it even smaller. Oh, we have to change the size here now. So let's go to, should we change scale? Grow direction, no. Is it rect? Yeah, there we go. Scale, let's set it to 0.2 on the X and the Y. We want this to be tiny. We want it to be a small little dot. All right, now let's recenter it. Oof. That didn't quite work the way I wanted it to. Why is it going there? Oh, we want, keep centered. Oh, grow direction. No. You know what? That's fine. We can eyeball it. Let's just kind of put it right in the middle, and hopefully that works out. Let's save, and let's test. Okay, so now I have kind of a cursor in the middle, so I know where to shoot. It'd be better if it was white maybe, but that's fine. This is good enough for our purposes for today. Okay, so now that that's all there, now we need to actually create a way for our player to emit something that kind of simulates a bullet. Okay, so let's go into our player object. What we're going to do is we are going to add a raycast. Raycasts are a special object that will essentially send out a signal in one direction in like a laser beam. And if it hits something, it'll return back to the object that sent it. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a raycast to the camera here so that it's always pointing in the way the camera is pointing. So we're going to add a new child node, and we're going to add a raycast. There we go. All right, now first we need to turn on the raycast by clicking enabled over here. And then we want to change the cast to, because notice it's really hard to see where it's casting to. We want it to cast in that direction. So we're going to change it to 0 on the Y, and we're going to change it to, let's say, -100 on the Z. Now notice that we're shooting a laser beam out into the distance, and it goes and it goes and it goes and it goes and it goes, and it goes until about 100 steps, and then it stops. So you can see it has a finite point there. That's a pretty good range. We can tweak that range if we want, but for right now, that's fine. We can just leave that alone. Okay, perfect. So now we have a raycast attached to our script, or to our object. Okay, perfect. Now what we need is we need a weapon. So this player does not have a weapon yet. Let's add a weapon. Now all we're going to do is we're going to create a basic node that is going to hold the script, and the script is going to be essentially the weapon. If we wanted to, we can add a 3D model to the weapon at some point so that we can see the weapon pointing in the screen. But for now, we're just going to add an empty node. So let's add a child node. And it's going to be a node. This gray one here, node. Let's rename that to weapon. And let's add a script, attach a script. And yeah, let's make it empty. It's going to be weapon create. Now, before we actually do this, let's go ahead and change the input map because we need some more inputs now. We need an input for firing and we need an input for reloading. So let's go to project settings, input map. Let's add primary _ fire, and let's add reload. All right. Primary fire is going to be a mouse button, and it's going to be actually the left mouse button, so the default. Reload is going to be a key, and it'll be the R key. All right, so we're going to use both of those in our script. It's a good thing that we created them now. Okay, now what we need to do is we need to start writing this script here. This weapon system is going to seem a bit complex as we're building it, but it's really not much. First, what we need to do is we need to give this script a class _ name, and we're going to call it weapon. This is going to allow us to inherit this script by other scripts so that we can create, like, say, a shotgun script that inherits this weapon, and everything that this weapon has in it, that shotgun script will be able to steal from it. We're not going to really implement that in this video, but it's something we're going to probably want for later. All right, now let's talk about some variables. Let's export a variable for fire rate, which is going to change the speed at which we're going to be able to fire our weapon. Let's export a variable for clip size, so we know how many bullets we have in our weapon. Export a variable for reload rate, so that we know how fast it takes or how long it takes for us to reload. Those are basic weapon variables. Now, we're going to need a couple of other variables that are references to other objects. First, we need a reference to the ammo label object so we can update our ammo count. So on ready var ammo _ label, and that's going to be $ root world UI label. Now, if that doesn't work for you, make sure you named everything exactly the way I did. Make sure you named UI, make sure label is still label, all of that, right? Because what we're doing is we're going from the player up to the root to the world UI label. Okay, perfect. Next, we need a reference to the raycast. So var raycast equals $, and for this we're going to do ..head / camera / raycast. And what that looks like here is we're going from here, and the ... let's go back to our weapon script. The ... takes us up one, then we go head, camera, raycast. Okay, perfect. All right, now we want some variables that we're not going to export, just some private variables for us. We need a variable for current ammo, and we need a variable for can _ fire. We're going to say true, and we want a variable for reloading. We'll set that to false. Okay, now when we start the script, when this comes into being, we want to give our player a full clip of ammo. So we'll say func underscore ready, and we will set current ammo to be equal to clip size. There we go. So then when we start, we will have a full clip of ammo. Then inside our, let's create a function, process function. There we go, process delta function. And let's see, what do we want to do here? Well, we want to set our ammo. We want to change our user interface so that it updates with our current ammo count. But we don't want to do that if it's reloading, if we're currently reloading, which we're going to create a reloading. You know what? I'm going to just write pass here. We're going to create all the functions. So we're going to need a process function. We're going to need a fire function, func fire. We are going to need a reload function. And we are going to need a check collision function. All right, so these functions are going to handle all the various features of our weapon, right? So process is going to be handling, what happens each frame. Whenever we fire the weapon, we're going to call this. Whenever we reload the weapon, we'll call this. And then if we have a collision, it'll be handled here. Okay, perfect. So let's go back up to our process method. Let's talk about it. So if we are reloading the weapon, if we are currently calling this method here, we don't actually want to put our ammo on the screen. We want to say reloading so that we know that that's happening. So we'll say if reloading, then ammo underscore label dot set underscore text is going to say reloading. Okay. And then if we're not reloading, we want to set our text, ammo label text, set underscore text, to be this special sequence of characters. It's going to be %d space / %d. Okay. Then outside of the quotes here, these are basically placeholders, and we're going to tell it what variables to use for those placeholders. So outside the quotes, we're going to say %, and then we're going to give it an array. And the array is going to be filled with current ammo, comma, clip, size. All right, so what that's going to do is it's going to basically put our current ammo on the screen. Let's go ahead and save everything, and let's test that out. So notice that, let me position it. Notice that it now says 5/5. That means I have 5 bullets out of 5. So our ammo counter is displaying properly, so we can move on to the next piece. All right, next, we want to check to see if they just pushed the fire button and they currently can fire. This is pretty easy to do. We just say if input dot is underscore action underscore just underscore pressed. So is action just pressed, and the action we're looking for is primary fire, but we also want to check to see if they can fire. So we'll say and can underscore fire. If both of those things are true, then we also want to check to see if our ammo count is above 0. So if current ammo is, greater than 0, and we're not currently reloading. because we don't want our weapon to fire in the middle of a reload, right? So then we will call this fire function that we are going to write here in just a minute. Let me go full screen so it's easier to see. So there we go. Then we will call this fire function that we have written. If not, so let's say elif not reloading. So basically, if our count is not greater than 0, then that means we don't have any bullets in our gun and we need to reload. Okay, pretty easy stuff, easy stuff, easy stuff. Now up here, if we've pressed the primary fire button, then it's going to fire. But what if we press the reload button? Well, it's the same as up there. Input.is underscore action underscore just underscore pressed. The action is reload and not reloading. We don't want to reload in the middle of our reload, right? So then we will call the reload function there as well. Okay, perfect. So that's our process. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to fire or click the button, and if we can fire, then it's going to check to see if we have any ammo, and we're not reloading. If we have ammo and we're not currently reloading, we'll fire the weapon. If we're not reloading, then we'll reload, and yada, yada, yada. So what I'll do here is just to test this out. Let's create a print inside here and say fired weapon. And then for reload, let's say print reloading. All right, cool. Now let's test this out and see if we can. Now I'm looking on the output down here. I'm going to look at the output here when I click just to see if those messages pop up. So I fired my weapon, fired weapon, fired weapon, fired weapon. Now notice that my ammo count isn't going down, and I can fire as much as I want. I can also reload as many times as I want by pushing R, and I can go back to firing weapon. So there's some problems here that we're going to fix, but at least we know that those inputs are being accepted properly. Okay, perfect. All right, let's go ahead and fix our firing. So what we want to do is right after we click that fire button, we want to set can fire to equal false. We don't want to fire until after we've given it some time, right? We also want to remove one bullet from our clip. So current ammo is going to be minus equals 1. Then we're going to call this check collision method to see if we actually hit anything. And then we're going to start our countdown. Basically, we're going to create a timer that is going to count down for the amount of time that we've set for our fire rate. And then when that's over, we'll allow you to fire again. So the way you do this is we're going to type yield get underscore tree dot create underscore timer. And we're going to set it at the rate of the fire rate. And the thing that we want to actually happen is timeout, basically meaning the timer is up and we can now go back to running the script. And the next thing we want to do is reset can fire back to true. All right, let's test that out. Save all scenes. Okay, so now if I shoot, notice that my bullets go away. Now, my bullets are all gone, and so it's trying to reload, but there's nothing to reload. So we need to fix that problem. Let's write our reload function. So let's change reloading, loading equals true. So what that's going to do is that's going to basically say, as soon as we hit as soon as we start reloading, we're setting reloading to true. We're going to say yield. So we're going to do the same thing here, actually. Let's just go ahead and copy and paste, because we're going to just set a timer for how long it takes to reload. But instead of fire rate, it's going to be reload rate. Okay. Then we want to set our current ammo equal to clip size, basically give us a full clip. Let's set reloading to false so that we can go back to normal operation. And we'll say, I don't know, well, we don't need the print statement. That's fine. So now if we play the game, I can shoot, 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 shoot. It's reloading. And now we go back to normal. Perfect. Okay, so that's working beautifully. The only problem is I can't shoot any of the bad guys. They don't go away when I shoot them. Luckily, this is incredibly easy. All we have to do is check to see if our raycast, now I'm doing this inside the check collision function. So check to see if raycast is underscore colliding. If it is, we're going to check to see, we're basically going to get the collider of the thing it's colliding with. So var collider equals raycast dot get collider. If collider dot is in group, that's why we set up our groups earlier, and we'll say enemies. That's what I called it, right? Let's check. I don't want to be out of pocket here. Let's check. Go to the world, enemy, group, enemies. Yeah, that's what I set it to. Perfect. So let's go back to the weapon script, go back to full screen, get rid of that. All right. So if the collider is in enemies, then we will say collider.q free, which will make that enemy go away. And it's that simple. Save everything, and let's test it. So I can shoot, I can shoot, I can shoot, and shoot, and he goes away. He's dead. Bam, he's dead too. Reload. Bam, bam. Now notice I can shoot the floor, and nothing happens because the floor is not in my enemies group. So this is only going to interact with the things that are actually enemies. All right, perfect. Let's see. What else do we want to do? Did we do everything? I think we did everything. I think that's all we need to do. This one script is handling all of our weapons. Now, one thing that we could do later on, if you really, really, really wanted to, what you could do is you could go to your player here and, oh, actually, go to your player here. And instead of this weapon having this weapon script attached to it, you can attach a new script, and that new script can extend weapon, just like this extends nodes. It can extend weapon and change these variables so that they have different fire rates, clip size, reload rates, whatever. So you can create a new script called shotgun, make your weapon the shotgun script, change these variables here, change the raycast length if you want so it doesn't shoot as far, whatever. And then you can just reload you can load in different weapons depending on the situation, right? So again, that's why we built this script the way it is. It's very versatile. So you can change this up and have different scripts with different variables in it, but they all do the same thing. All right, perfect. Well, that's about it. As long as your game works and you are able to shoot your bad guys and your user interface updates, then you're good to go, and I will see you in the next video.